We're privileged and delighted to have a presentation today by Ms. Alana Wheeler from the Ministry of National Security here in Trinidad and Tobago. Ms. Wheeler is a Trinidad and Tobago national. She speaks 3 languages, English, French and Spanish, a graduate of the University of the West Indies Institute of International Relations and St. Augustine and Georgetown University School of Foreign Service in Washington, D.C. It was there that she pursued a Fulbright scholarship for a Master of Arts degree in National Security Studies. And those of you who've seen her CV will see that she has many published articles, particularly around the interesting and exciting, some would say, subjects to do with spying, the Shining Path and the endurance of the Shining Path in Peru. So very much on the edge of society and the violence that's associated with society, and indeed sometimes domestic and international spying that goes with it. The presentation is entitled Crime Prevention and Alternative Approaches in the Caribbean. Ma'am, it's our pleasure. I'd like to invite you to the podium to give us your speech. Please welcome her to the stage.
Good morning. I'm a bit challenged this morning as it's the funeral of the late Arthur Napoleon Raymond Robinson, and I'm due to attend the funeral, so I'm going to try to be as brief as I can with my presentation. Commissioner Greenslade, Commissioner De Silva, Commissioner Williams, Commissioner Baines, Commissioner Ellington, Commissioner Francois, other commissioners of police, distinguished guests, and partners of the association. Good morning to you. I stand here this morning representing and speaking on behalf of the Pan American Development Foundation, which is a non-profit organization that has been partnering in this region for over 50 years. That's longer than my lifespan. And it's longer than the many years you and I have spent addressing crime issues in the region. Ms. Shanna O'Reilly, who is the project director for the Caribbean, she sends you her warm greetings and appreciation to the executive and to the members of ACCP. Shanna could not be here today, and thus she has asked me to present on her behalf. Pan American Development Foundation would like to thank you for affording us the opportunity to share with your membership and partners some of its most recent projects for the Caribbean region. But I'd first like to start this morning by asking some questions. Why is it that despite the many structural and institutional reforms promoted by our countries, that in many cases our justice and security institutions are still overwhelmed and confidence in them is shattered? We've been exposed to several methods and terminology over the past few days and over the past few years in many conferences and workshops that we've attended. And we've heard things like evidence-based policing, citizen security, community policing, crime prevention. Most, if not all of them, point to the same challenge, and that is that if a person's basic needs are not met, food, shelter, clothing, then there will be some form of dissatisfaction and discontent, and they would seek out ways to meet those basic needs. But does it mean that meeting a basic need justifies committing a crime? Well, certainly not. And this is certainly not the only reason that crimes are committed. So what causes persons to commit crimes? And how can we get to the root causes of crime? Well, this is what social crime prevention is all about, what it can do. And this is the approach that has been adopted by the Pan American Development Foundation for this Caribbean project. Now, just to give you a background on the Pan American Development Foundation, I'll just go through that, and then I'll go through where the organization works in the Caribbean, what were some of their results and challenges, and how Pan American can partner with your various countries' police services. The Pan American Development Foundation is actually an affiliate of the Organization of American States, Their headquarters is based in Washington, D.C., and they operate out of the OAS office. They were actually formed by two diplomats in 1962, and they've worked in the hemisphere for over 50 years. And their approach for work is forming partnerships with the private sector, partnerships with host governments, partnerships with organizations like the ACCP, and partnerships with civil society. Now I'm just going to talk a bit about the project that the organization has started in the Caribbean region. The overall objectives of this project, which is called a Crime Prevention Project, is to enhance the capacity of young people, the police and justice sector officials, to work together on crime prevention. Another objective is to build mutual trust between these groups and to identify and anticipate the common causes of crime. Now, this project is a 2.5-year project that ends in 2016, and it is supported by INL, and you would have had a presentation from INL a couple of days ago, but it is part of the Caribbean Basin Security Initiative funding. The project is currently operating in 3 countries, the Bahamas, Trinidad and Tobago, and Guyana. And the reason for selecting these countries was that the organization felt that these countries had opportunities to implement the project, and also they saw potential in the project achieving a measure of success. Now, these would not be the only countries in which the project would be implemented, but these are like pilot countries. Out of this pilot project, then the organization will seek to engage other countries. I know Commissioner Greenslade would have been engaging in discussions with the representative in the Bahamas, and also Commissioner Passad of Guyana. They would have been engaging with him in discussions. Commissioner Williams, of course, was part of our discussions. And what the organization did, initially, there was a fact-finding mission in October last year, where Shana and some other colleagues came and they visited the 3 countries, and they met with senior police officials in these countries. DCP Allen would have been part of those meetings, Commissioner Williams also, and senior executives from the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service and the other police services. And then in January this year, a needs assessment was conducted where they met with various stakeholders, civil society, representatives of Ministry of National Security, Ministries of Education, Ministry of Justice, in some of the countries, the AG office, and they sat and basically looked at what were some of the gaps that needed to be filled in addressing crime prevention. And some of the findings that came out of this, we found that in the 3 countries, there were several projects, crime prevention projects, operating out of the Ministries of National Security, out of the Ministries of Community Development, Justice, Social Development. There were a lot of projects operating, but there was no unified framework. Of all the countries they found, I think Bahamas has a national crime prevention desk that is actually set up within their police service. And what the PADF is trying to do now is to unify the efforts, so there won't be a duplication of efforts where you find like different ministries are basically running the same programs and running the same programs in the same communities. One of the things that Pan American Development Foundation will do is also engage in monitoring and evaluation of all the crime prevention projects within the country, and also encourage interagency collaboration. So the stage where we're at with the project, it targets 15,200 young people. That's in all the 3 countries. It targets 1,410 police officers and 1,050 other officials, which can be like civil society, lawyers, judges, community leaders. We are at this stage of capacity building, the curriculum design. And what we've done so far is a curriculum has been developed and drafted, and we have met with the police training academies of the 3 countries, basically for them to review the curricula and to give feedback on how best to structure the curriculum. After this curriculum has been finalized, we then get to the process of selecting persons who we can train. Now, what I haven't said is that the project will take the format of a train-the-trainer, which means that the government, the police service will select persons who have the capacity and the potential to train other persons. Now, what we find often happens is that you have train-the-trainer programs, and you find that persons who don't end up training end up getting the train-the-trainer. So you have a 5-day or 2-week train-the-trainer. At the end of that, the persons leave the country, the trainers are here, they go back to their police units, and they don't get the opportunities to implement what they have learned. But what this program will seek to do is basically to obligate the persons who are trained to conduct training sessions. So it will be a multiplier effect. So let's say we have 20 persons who are trained as trainers. Each of those 20 will train an additional 50, let's say, over a period of time. And the persons, of course, will be selected based on their role and function in the communities, their role and function within their organizations. So after we develop the curriculum, we will then liaise with the governments in selecting who these trainers will be. As you know, these projects are funded, and the project funds are limited. So what we are also seeking to do is get buy-in from the countries. So at the end of the project in 2016, we want to be able to say, well, okay, so many persons were trained, and that the training will continue beyond the life of the actual project. So this is the aim of this particular program. Now, within the training program, the facilitators or trainers will be accredited. And part of their accreditation will be that they have to train others in the social crime prevention, right? We would select persons, of course, based on the geographic area, so we would look at hotspots within each country, and then part of the training would mean that they have to develop an action plan for their particular community. So, of course, persons who are part of the training would be persons representing hotspot communities and other key communities, which would be identified by the country. All right, after the action plan, of course, we would have we are seeking to institutionalize crime prevention by way of either having a national crime prevention desk, whether it's the police service, in the Ministry of National Security, by way of having some sort of interagency committee, right, where you can monitor and evaluate all the crime prevention programs in the country. So the project actually goes beyond the CBSI, beyond PADF, really, and beyond just the police service. It is a way to initiate partnership with community members, with private sector, and with other government agencies. Now, just to give you an example of some of the projects that PADF has engaged in Belize, they have a program called YES, which is Youth Engagement Services Program. It is a 10-month program, and it targets young people between ages 18 to 24. Of course, it would be, what we like to term sometimes at-risk or disadvantaged youth. And it is basically to teach them skills so that they can start their own small businesses. So what we saw in that picture was just a classroom where they were learning, basic things about running a small business. They would be taught things on accounting, finance, developing a small marketing plan, developing a business plan, right? And the ultimate aim is that, of course, they will be self-employed. That project, again, is funded by the US State Department. Another project that is operating in Suriname. Suriname is actually one of the largest projects. It's a $4.5 million project funded by USAID. And that project looks at youth development and the juvenile justice system in Suriname. That project targets young people between ages 15 and 24. And they are at risk of dropping out of school, or they've dropped out of school, or they've been in conflict with the law. And that project operates in 2 phases. One is a multi-sector assessment, which was already done, and the second phase is giving the youth opportunities for employment and vocational education. So at the end of that project, what they seek to do is to have a grants application process for the participants, where they will give them the opportunity to apply for funding to run their businesses. PADF has also engaged in disaster response and recovery, and I think in Trinidad and Tobago, that was one of their main areas of operation. They've also done this in Haiti, Dominica, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and they've engaged in rehab of agriculture and small business livelihoods, and grants, training, and equipment. And that would have been in December 2013. In Haiti, and this would have been several years ago, Pan American assisted them in the cross-border challenges that they faced with the Dominican Republic, and built partnerships and worked with community leaders and their representatives. Pan American also assisted the victims of violence in Haiti, victims of torture, gender-based violence, and they offered them psychosocial services. PDF also helped Haiti develop child exploitation public awareness campaigns. They ran a brigade for the protection of minors, and they facilitated the dialogue between Haiti and DOMREP, which most recently, well, we're all aware that occurred in the latter part of last year. So that's just to give you a better sense of what the organization has already engaged with in the region. Now, this is just in the Caribbean countries, but Pan American has also engaged in projects in Bangladesh. Shanna O'Reilly, who is the project director for this CBSI project, she actually engaged in police reform in Bangladesh, and she was assigned to work on this project because of her familiarity with working with the police service. So the organization has a wealth of experience and knowledge. It has worked in over 22 countries worldwide, and it has helped more than 10.2 million people throughout the world. So today, I am here to actually engage in some discussion with you on how Pan American Development can assist your police service and assist your countries in improving on its crime prevention efforts. I wish to thank you, and I invite you for any questions.
Colleagues, questions?
Good morning.
Morning.
Antigua and Barbuda, Via Brown. Ma'am, your block of instructions just a while ago was extremely, touching and impressive. It's like a breath of fresh air when you add or compare and contrast with what went. Simply put, it's factual and you have the empirical evidence. Just to draw from a few lines, which I'll take probably to my grave. Among other things, you said if a person's basic needs are not met, example, food, clothing, and I add drugs, then they will find other ways to meet those basic needs, and this does not say one should embark on crime to fill the basic needs. Essentially, the message that has been emanated from that podium is it sounds like the police is responsible for the social errors or the social, misdirection in the society, and we must formulate a platform so we can eradicate it. But you came with the solution, you came with a blueprint that I hope we will take back to our country, and Antigua and Barbuda has both hands and feet out, ready to embrace all the information that you just imparted there so we can move forward to make a better Caribbean. Again, I thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Any other questions? Yeah. Michael, St. Vincent.
Commissioner Michael Charles from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. In St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the government runs a program, a YES program as in Belize, but it's the Youth Empowerment Program. This is where youth from the age of 18 to 25, they've been given an opportunity for 2 years to work in a working environment. And after this, they maybe keep on by the place that they work for the 2 years. But this is funded by the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I see that your organization is funding these things. I wonder if it's possible for we to get some assistance, because it's really a very good program. So I just threw this out to you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. To respond to your question, they're currently developing a proposal for the Eastern Caribbean countries. So what I will do is I'll certainly take back, so your country would be included in that proposal, and that will be a much larger project than this one. This is just a pilot that they're working with, and from that one. But again, of course, it is based on funding and the INL, and if the U.S. State Department would be willing to fund, which I think they are under the CBSI. So I will definitely convey your questions to PADF. Thank you. Well, one thing I'd like to add, just to wrap up, I just wanted to thank Commissioner Williams for really engaging the PADF, and also Commissioner Greenslade and Commissioner Passad from Guyana. The three countries have been extremely supportive of this project, and we will be calling on the Commissioner's office for quite a bit of information, because when a foreign country comes into your country to do work, they also want some information back, and that helps them actually develop a project that is tailor-made to your country. So you find that these organizations would ask for a lot of information, like the crime statistics. They would ask for training programs that your police academies would have, right? What types of training have been conducted for the police, the induction training, the advanced training. So you find that there are a lot of questions would be coming to you all the time, and Commissioner Williams, DCP Allen would know that, and they would want the information like now for now. So for the other countries that have not yet participated in the project, it's just to give you a heads up that that would be some of the requirements of the organization. And it's not that the organization is trying to pry into what's happening in your country. It is just that it helps the project to be better tailor-made to meet the needs of your country. All right, I wish to thank you again.
To quote the words of Veer Brown when he said it's a breath of fresh air, he didn't use that as a phrase just as a throwaway line. The comment we've been speaking all week is that the solution to our problems of crime are not solely in the hands of police. We've got a clear position and a responsibility, but you're talking about dealing with the causes of it, not merely the symptom. Sadly, all too often, some governments portray it that there's a silver bullet solution to crime in our countries and our regions. There is not. It's been 30 years or more in the making. It's going to be 30 years or more to get the next generation out of that cycle of criminality. I can speak firsthand from having seen one of your projects work in the Bahamas, where you had entrepreneurial support, seed corn funding, that gave people the means to feed themselves, to educate their children, and to do the basics that many of us take for granted. So as a personal thank you for the work that you're doing. On the wider collective sense, you are starting to change the message and understanding of so many people that this is a collective issue. We work better across governments and across agencies than merely requiring one agency, normally the police, to take the blame for trying to address crime that often is fueled by poverty and lack of opportunity. So, sincere thank you. Good luck with what you're doing. We look forward to you joining us and reporting back on those projects in the future. Please accept this as a token of our appreciation, and thank you for addressing us this morning.